Danny Martinez stood in his workshop and looked at the broken pieces floating in the containment field. The fragments did not obey normal laws of physics. One piece was metal that bent through 4 dimensions at once. Another was part of a shipping container that existed in 2 places at the same time. This was his job. This was what he did every day. For 15 years, Danny had cleaned up teleportation failures. When the quantum anchors failed and objects arrived wrong, he was the one who fixed them. He had seen many strange things. A briefcase fused with human tissue. A man whose left arm appeared 3 feet away from his body but still worked. Objects stretched across space like taffy. He had learned how to repair them all. Most failures were small. A package arrived inside out. A passenger materialized with their molecules slightly out of phase. Danny used specialized tools to put things back together. His quantum spanners could reach through probability fields. His dimensional sutures sewed broken space back together. He was good at his job. The best, people said. The emergency communicator on his desk began screaming. The sound made Danny jump. That communicator only made noise for the worst disasters. He grabbed it and heard Commander Lisa's voice. She worked for the Teleportation Safety Bureau. Danny had known her for 10 years. He had never heard fear in her voice before. "Danny, we need you in Seattle. Now, downtown hub, it's bad." "How bad?" Danny asked. He was already grabbing his equipment bag. "An entire city block just arrived in the main receiving bay." Lisa's voice shook. "A whole city block, Danny, from New Haven Colony, 2,000 people, but it came through wrong, really wrong." Danny stopped moving. His hands froze on the equipment bag. "That's impossible. The receiving bays can't handle anything that size. The quantum fields would collapse." They did collapse, and now we have a residential district folded through 6 dimensions in the middle of downtown Seattle. Time is flowing wrong inside. Space is broken. We can see people through the walls, but they're frozen. Some of them are aging. Some are getting younger. Danny, I don't know what to do. "I'm on my way." The flight to Seattle took 2 hours. Danny spent the time reviewing teleportation theory in his head. An object could not teleport unless it had quantum anchors at both the sending and receiving points. The anchors locked the object's position in space-time and then moved that position. For a city block to teleport, someone would need to anchor every molecule simultaneously. The computing power alone should have been impossible. When Danny arrived at the Seattle hub, he understood why Lisa had sounded afraid. The main receiving bay was a space the size of an airplane hangar. It was designed to handle individual travelers or cargo containers. Now it contained a nightmare. Buildings rose at angles that hurt to look at. A 3-story apartment complex leaned sideways through a grocery store. Both structures occupied the same space but from different dimensions. Streets curved upward and folded back into themselves. A park existed on top of a school, but Danny could see through the park to the school's interior. Gravity did not flow in one direction. It pulled sideways in some places, upward in others, in multiple directions at once in still more places. Through walls that flickered between solid and transparent, Danny saw people. They were frozen in the middle of normal activities. A woman pouring coffee, children playing in a yard, a man walking his dog, but they were wrong. The woman existed in 2 states at once, young in one view and old in another. The children moved in slow motion while birds around them flew at normal speed. The man's dog had aged into a skeleton on one side while remaining alive on the other. Bureau Chief Greg Henderson met Danny at the containment barrier. Greg was a big man with gray hair and tired eyes. He looked like he had not slept in days, though the disaster had only happened 6 hours ago. "Tell me everything," Danny said. Greg pulled up a holographic display. New Haven Colony attempted their first long-range civilian teleport this morning. They wanted to bring an entire residential district back to Earth for a cultural festival. 2,300 people in a 6-block area. The quantum anchors engaged normally. The teleport sequence initiated without errors. Then something went wrong at the halfway point. "What went wrong?" "We don't know. The anchors at our end registered the incoming mass and tried to compensate, but the arrival coordinates scattered across probability fields. The city block tried to materialize in 17 different locations simultaneously. When the quantum fields couldn't resolve the conflict, everything collapsed into the receiving bay at once." Danny walked closer to the barrier. The air near the shattered city block felt wrong. It pushed and pulled at the same time. He could feel his inner ear struggling to understand which way was down. "What's the official protocol for this?" Danny asked, though he already knew the answer. Greg's face went hard. Containment and collapse. We seal the area and let the quantum state resolve naturally. Everyone inside dies or becomes permanently locked in their fractured state. Then we dispose of the remains. But Danny, there are 2,000 people in there, families, children. Danny looked through the flickering walls at the frozen faces. A little girl held her mother's hand. Both of them were screaming silently as reality tore apart around them. The girl's face showed 3 different ages at once, child and teenager and adult, all existing in the same moment. "I'm going in," Danny said. "That breaks every regulation. The quantum instability will kill you. Your consciousness will fragment across timelines. You'll experience every possible version of your death simultaneously." "Then I better work fast." Greg stared at him for a long moment. Then he nodded. "I'll give you as much time as I can, but if the instability spreads beyond the containment field, I have to activate the collapse protocol. Those are my orders." "Understood." A young technician approached as Danny prepared his equipment. She was small and nervous, with short black hair and glasses that kept sliding down her nose. Her name tag read Amy Rogers. "Mr. Martinez, I pulled the teleport logs from New Haven. There's something you need to see." Danny looked at the data Amy showed him on her tablet. The quantum anchor signatures did not match standard patterns. Someone had modified the anchors before the teleport sequence. The modifications were subtle but deliberate. They were designed to make the city block arrive exactly as it had, shattered and twisted across dimensions. "This wasn't an accident," Amy said quietly. "Someone sabotaged the anchors. Someone wanted this to happen." Danny felt cold. Who would do this? Why? "I don't know. But Mr. Martinez, the modifications required knowledge of quantum mechanics that shouldn't exist yet. Whoever did this understands teleportation at a level beyond anything in our current research. And according to the monitoring systems, someone is watching this location right now. They're scanning the shattered city block from somewhere nearby. They're waiting to see what happens next." Danny looked back at the nightmare of twisted buildings and frozen people. Someone had turned 2,000 lives into bait for a trap, and he was about to walk right into it. He checked his equipment one final time. The protective suit would maintain his quantum coherence and keep his consciousness from fragmenting. The tools would let him manipulate space-time directly. He had everything he needed except a plan. Greg put a hand on Danny's shoulder. "You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do." Danny stepped toward the containment barrier. "This is what I do. I clean up failed teleports." "Danny," Amy called out, "be careful. Whoever set this trap is still watching. They wanted someone like you to go inside. You're part of their plan." Danny nodded and stepped through the barrier into the shattered city block. Reality immediately fought him. Danny's first step into the shattered city block felt like falling and standing still at the same time. His protective suit screamed warnings. 7 gravity fields pulled at his body from different directions. His stomach twisted. His inner ear could not decide which way was up. Time moved wrong here. He took 1 step forward, and his suit's chronometer showed 3 seconds had passed outside. But to Danny, that step took 30 minutes. The world around him existed in pieces. A street corner appeared 3 times in the same space, each version from a different moment. Morning, afternoon, and night existed together. Danny saw the same car parked in the same spot, but in one version it was new, in another it was rusted, and in the third it was on fire. He focused on his breathing and moved forward. His tools hung from his belt, ready to use. The quantum spanner felt warm in his hand. It could reach through probability fields and grab onto stable moments. The dimensional sutures could sew broken space-time back together, 1 stitch at a time. Danny found his first survivor 3 buildings into the chaos. The building was a coffee shop, or it had been before reality broke. Now it existed in 2 states at once. In one state, the morning rush was happening. In the other state, the shop was closed and empty at night. Both versions occupied the same physical space. A woman stood behind the counter, frozen in mid-pour. Coffee streamed from a pot that existed and did not exist at the same time. But the woman was the worst part. She was 30 years old, a barista with a name tag that read. She wore a green apron and had her hair pulled back. But she was also 60 years old at the same time. Gray hair and wrinkled skin overlapped with her younger self. Both versions were conscious. Both were screaming silently. Danny could see the terror in her eyes, doubled and tripled across different ages. He approached carefully. His suit registered the temporal split and calculated the quantum signature. Existed in two timelines 30 years apart. Both timelines were equally real. Her consciousness was aware of both, trapped between them, unable to reconcile the contradiction. Danny pulled out his quantum spanner and began to work. He had to collapse one of the timelines without killing her. He chose the younger version because her quantum signature was stronger. The older version was a probability echo, a future that might happen. Danny reached into the probability field and began pulling the timelines together. It took what felt like hours but was only minutes outside. Danny worked with careful precision, folding the future back into potential, leaving only the present real. When he finished, gasped and fell forward against the counter. Her eyes focused on Danny for the first time. "You're real," she whispered. "I can see you clearly. Everything else is doubled and tripled, but you're just one person. I'm here to help. Can you move?" Tried to step away from the counter, but stumbled. Time was still flowing wrong around her. She moved in bursts, fast and slow at random. "There are others deeper inside, much worse than me. People who got caught in the center of the fold. I can hear them screaming in my head." "In your head. We're all connected somehow. Since this happened, I can feel the others, all 2,000 of us. We're trapped in the same quantum state. Our thoughts touch each other across the broken space." Danny helped to a stable area near the entrance where time flowed almost normally. He marked it as a safe zone and told her to stay there. Then he moved deeper into the shattered city block. The damage got worse as he went. A school existed on 4 floors at the same time. Classrooms full of children occupied the same space from different time periods. Danny saw the same room with kids from morning classes and afternoon classes and evening activities all present at once. The children were frozen in different states of awareness. Some saw him, some did not. Their ages shifted as he watched. An apartment building had been turned inside out. The interior rooms were exposed to freezing void-cold space. The exterior walls faced inward, trapping families in pockets of compressed atmosphere that would not last long. Danny worked quickly to seal the dimensional breaches and restore the building's structure. He saved 3 families before his suit warned him about power levels dropping. A park had been folded through itself 17 times. Trees grew through their own trunks from different moments in history. Birds were frozen mid-flight across decades. A child's swing moved forward in one timeline and backward in another, occupying both states simultaneously. Danny spent precious minutes unfolding the park back to 3 dimensions, though the damage was so severe he could only make it stable, not normal. His communicator crackled. Amy's voice came through, broken by static. "Danny, I've been analyzing the quantum signature of the failure. The sabotage was sophisticated. Whoever did this understands teleportation technology at a level that shouldn't be possible. The pattern of damage isn't random. The city block has been folded in a specific way. Someone created a dimensional maze." "A maze leading where?" "To the center. There's a stable zone at the exact middle of the shattered block, a place where the chaos doesn't reach. Someone is waiting for you there." Danny moved toward the center. The path became more difficult. Reality fought him with each step. He walked through a restaurant where the diners existed in 5 different time periods. He crossed a street that led upward instead of forward. He passed through a library where the books were written in languages that had not been invented yet. The center of the shattered city block was a plaza. Before the disaster, it had probably been a nice place where people gathered. Now it existed in perfect clarity while everything around it swirled in chaos. The plaza was stable. Time flowed normally. The ground was level, and standing in the middle waiting was a man. The man looked human, but something was wrong with him. His body flickered between quantum states with perfect control. One moment he was solid. The next he was slightly transparent. Then he was in 2 places at once. But unlike the other victims, this man controlled his quantum shifts. He moved through probability fields like Danny walked through normal space. "Hello, Danny Martinez," the man said. His voice came from multiple timelines at once, creating an echo effect. "I've been waiting for you. My name is, and we need to talk about the future." Danny kept his distance. His hand moved to the quantum spanner on his belt. "You did this. You sabotaged the teleport. You trapped these people." "Yes," did not deny it. "And I'm here to stop you from fixing it. These people need to stay trapped. Saving them will doom humanity's future." "What are you talking about?" Gestured at the chaos around them. "I'm from Earth's future, 300 years ahead of your time. In my timeline, you successfully rescue everyone from this city block. Your success leads to a breakthrough in teleportation technology. Within 50 years, humanity gains the power to move anything, anywhere, anytime. But we can't control it. The technology tears open reality itself. Earth and 20 colony worlds are ripped apart by cascading quantum failures. Billions die. Danny stared at him. You're saying I need to let these people die to prevent future disasters. Not let them die, let them remain in this state, trapped between moments. It becomes a permanent warning. Research into advanced teleportation stops. Humanity never develops the technology that destroys everything. 2,000 lives in stasis versus billions dead. The math is simple. Danny thought about what was saying. It made sense in a terrible way, but something felt wrong. If saving these people is so dangerous, why didn't you just kill them? Why let me try at all? Why are you here talking to me instead of destroying the city block from outside? His expression shifted slightly. For just a moment, his quantum control slipped and Danny saw uncertainty. Because, said slowly, the timeline is delicate. If I kill them directly, it creates a different set of consequences. You have to make the choice to leave them trapped. That's the only way to prevent the research breakthrough. You're lying, Danny said. Not about everything, but about something important. I'm telling you the truth. In 300 years, Earth is gone. I watched it die. I watched billions of people torn apart by quantum storms, all because you saved this city block today. Danny took a step forward. Then answer me this. If you're really from 300 years in the future, why do you still look human? Why do you have a name I can pronounce? Why do you care about preventing a disaster that already happened in your past? If Earth is destroyed in your timeline, there's nothing you can do to change it. The past is fixed. Was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. The multiple timelines stopped echoing. He sounded like a normal person. You're right, I'm not from 300 years in the future. He looked tired suddenly. I'm from 3 weeks in the future, and I'm not here to stop a rescue. I'm here to steal something that only exists because this disaster happened. What are you really after? Sat down on a bench in the plaza. His quantum flickering stopped. He looked like an ordinary man now, exhausted and desperate. At the exact center of this fold, there's a temporal anchor point, a place where past, present, and future intersect perfectly. The shattered city block created it accidentally when 2,000 consciousness got trapped between moments. That anchor point lets someone observe any moment in history, change any event, reshape reality itself. And you want to use it. My daughter dies in 3 weeks, a colony transport accident. I've searched for years to find a way to change it. When I discovered the theory behind temporal anchor points, I knew what I had to do. I caused this disaster. I trapped these people, all for the chance to save one child. Danny felt anger rising in his chest. You condemned 2,000 people for your daughter. Yes, looked up at him. And I'd do it again, wouldn't you? If you had the power to save someone you loved, wouldn't you use it no matter the cost? Not like this, never like this. Then you're a better person than me, but that doesn't change the situation. The temporal anchor point exists. I'm going to use it. And you can't stop me because while we've been talking, I've been holding the fold stable. If I let go, the quantum fields will collapse in seconds. Everyone dies. The only way to save these people is to let me access the anchor point first. Danny realized the trap had closed around him, had not been waiting for him to arrive. He had been waiting for Danny to get close enough to the center. Now Danny was stuck. Move against and everyone dies. Let use the anchor point and reality itself might break. The collective surrounded and Danny in the plaza. 2,000 people materialized from the folded space, their forms shifting through different temporal states. Some appeared young and old at once. Others flickered between locations. But they moved together with one purpose, guided by his voice. Backed away, his quantum control wavered. Stay back. If you disrupt my connection to the fold, everyone dies. We know, said. Her voice remained calm. We've been trapped here for hours outside, but inside we've experienced centuries. We've had time to think, time to understand what happened to us, time to feel the shape of the prison you built around us, and we've learned things you didn't expect. Danny watched the collective carefully. They were not attacking. They were surrounding him, yes, but their body language showed no aggression. They wanted to talk. What did you learn? Danny asked. Turned to him. When she smiled, all 2,000 faces smiled with her. We learned that we're connected now in ways that go beyond normal consciousness. Our minds touch across the quantum barriers. We can feel each other's thoughts, share memories, combine our understanding. 2,000 people trapped in broken time have become something new, something more than human. And we learned, said a man who stepped forward from the collective, that we're not the only ones interested in this temporal anchor point. The man was tall and thin with dark hair. His name tagged from before the disaster read. He had been a teacher at the school. Now his form flickered more than the others, as if he had spent more time in the deepest parts of the fold. There are things outside, continued, pressing against reality, drawn to the wound created when he shattered our city block. We can feel them circling like sharks around blood in water. They want to come through. They want to use the temporal anchor point for themselves. His face went pale. I didn't know. I didn't realize opening the temporal anchor would attract attention from outside dimensions. You didn't care, said simply. You were too focused on saving your daughter, but it doesn't matter now. Those things are here. They're testing the boundaries, trying to find a way in. If you open the temporal anchor point fully to make your change, you might let them through, and we don't think you want that. What are they? Danny asked. These things outside. The collective hesitated. For the first time, Danny saw fear in their unified expression. We're not sure, admitted, but we can sense their nature through the quantum connection. They exist in spaces between dimensions. They feed on causality itself. Where they touch reality, cause and effect break down. They don't want to visit our universe. They want to consume it. Danny felt cold. Can you stop them? We can hold them back. We've been doing it since we became connected. Our unified consciousness creates a barrier, but we can't hold them forever. And if opens the anchor point, the barrier will weaken. We need a different solution. What solution? Demanded. I didn't create this disaster to walk away empty-handed. My daughter dies in 3 weeks. I can save her with the anchor point. That's all that matters. Looked at him with something like pity. We can help you save your daughter without opening the anchor point fully. We can guide you to it, show you how to make the change you want without creating a breach for the outside entities. But you have to help Danny repair the fold. You have to fix what you broke. Why would you help me after what I did? Because we understand desperation. We felt what you're feeling across 2,000 minds. Every one of us has someone we want to save, something we want to change. But we also understand that some prices are too high. We won't let you destroy reality to save one person, but we will help you find another way. Danny stepped forward. There's another problem. The Teleportation Safety Bureau has orders to collapse the quantum field if the instability spreads. Commander is buying me time, but she can't wait forever. We need to fix this soon or the choice gets taken away from all of us. The collective turned to face Danny as one. We've been talking about that, said. We don't want to go back to normal. We don't want to forget what we've learned here, lose the connection we've built. Centuries of shared experience have changed us. We're not the same people who stepped into the teleport on New Haven. What do you want? We want to stay connected, keep our expanded consciousness, transform what happened to us into something new instead of just repairing it back to normal. His form stabilized as she spoke, becoming more solid. We want to become something between human and whatever comes next, something that can guard against the entities outside. We can be humanity's defense against the things that feed on causality. Spoke up again. Not all of us agree. About 1,000 of us want to ascend fully, join with the entities outside. We think they represent what humanity is meant to become. Why fight the future when we can embrace it? Danny felt his stomach drop. You want to join those things after feeling what they are? We think you're wrong about them, said. His voice was calm but firm. You see them as threats because you don't understand them. They exist beyond time and causality. They're free from the limits that trap us. Yes, they feed on reality, but maybe that's just how they interact with our dimension. Maybe from their perspective, they're helping us evolve. That's insane, said. I may have caused this disaster, but even I can see those entities are dangerous. You would say that? You're stuck in old ways of thinking. Turned back to the collective. About half of the 2,000 people stepped toward him, their forms beginning to flicker in rhythm with his. We've decided. If the entities offer us a path to transcendence, we're going to take it. The collective split, and roughly 1,000 others remained solid and separate from his group. The two groups faced each other across the plaza, and Danny could feel the tension building. Don't do this, pleaded. We've felt those things. They're not transcendent beings. They're trapped in an eternal hunger they can't escape. They want to consume us, not uplift us. That's your interpretation, replied. We've felt them too. We've reached out through the quantum connection and touched their consciousness. They're offering us something beautiful, freedom from linear time, existence across all possibilities we're going to accept. Faction began moving toward the edges of the fold where the barriers were weakest. Danny could see the spots where reality bulged inward, pressed by things from outside. The entities were waiting there, patient and hungry. "Amy," Danny shouted into his communicator, "the situation is deteriorating. Some of the victims are trying to breach the containment from inside. Can you reinforce the barriers?" Amy's voice crackled back. "Negative. Reinforcing from outside will take time we don't have. You need to stop them from inside." Suddenly grabbed Danny's arm. "If Scroop breaks through, it's over. The entities will flood in. They'll use the temporal anchor point, and I'll never save my daughter." "This isn't about your daughter anymore," Danny snapped. He pulled free and ran towards Group. But he was too late, and his faction reached the first weak point in the barrier. They pressed their hands against the bulging reality and pulled. The barrier tore like wet paper. Cold emptiness rushed through the gap, and behind it came the entities. Danny saw them clearly for the first time. They were not creatures. They were absences, places where reality stopped existing. Where they touched, the folded city block, cause and effect inverted. A building began deconstructing itself backward through time. Trees grew down into the ground instead of up. People caught at the edge of the breach started aging in reverse, becoming children, then infants, then unborn, then nothing. Faction reached toward the entities with joy on their faces. They thought they were ascending. They thought they were joining something greater. But when the entities touched them, the truth became clear. The things from outside did not recruit. They consumed. And his followers were unmade in seconds, erased from causality so completely that they had never existed. The people around Danny suddenly could not remember who was. The memories vanished as the entities ate them. "No," screamed. She and her half of the collective threw themselves at the breach, trying to seal it with their unified consciousness. They formed a living barrier, their quantum states overlapping to create a wall against the void. Ran to the temporal anchor point at the center of the plaza. "I can close it from here. If I manipulate the anchor, I can seal the breach. But I need time." Danny pulled out every tool he had. His quantum spanner, his dimensional sutures, his temporal stabilizers. He worked alongside collective, sewing reality back together as fast as he could while they held the entities at bay with sheer willpower. More breaches opened. The entities had found the weak points and they were pushing through everywhere at once. Danny ran from breach to breach, sealing what he could, but there were too many. For every hole he closed, two more opened. His communicator screamed, "Danny, this is Greg Henderson. The quantum instability is spreading beyond the containment field. I have authorization to collapse the field in 15 minutes. Get out now." "Can't. If I leave, the entities break through completely." "Then you're going to die in there." Danny did not answer. He kept working. His hands moved automatically, using tools he had spent 15 years mastering. Seal a breach, stabilize a fold, reconnect a severed timeline, over and over. His suit's power reserves dropped to critical levels. Appeared beside him, her form barely solid now. The collective was exhausted from holding the barriers. "We can't maintain this much longer. There are too many breaches. Too many of us were lost when faction was consumed." "How many are left?" "Maybe 1,000. The entities erased and his followers so completely that the rest of us are having trouble remembering them. But we know we lost people. We can feel the gaps where they used to be in our collective mind." Danny sealed another breach and moved to the next. "Needs time to work with the anchor point. Can you hold for 5 more minutes?" "I don't know. Danny, even if we survive this, even if seals the breaches, we can't go back to normal. We've changed too much. We've lost too many. We need to transform what we are into something that can guard against this happening again." "What do you mean?" "We need to become a permanent seal, a barrier between normal reality and the things outside. We can do it if you help us. But it means we never go back to normal life. We stay here, conscious but isolated, existing between moments forever, guarding humanity against the entities." Danny looked at her. "That's not life, that's a prison." "It's purpose," said quietly. "And it's better than being unmade. We've talked about it through our connection. We're willing to make that sacrifice if it means those things never break through. But we need your help to make it work. And we need to stop thinking about his daughter long enough to help seal the structure properly." Danny ran to the center of the plaza where worked at the temporal anchor point. The anchor was visible now, a sphere of perfect stillness in the chaos. Through it, Danny could see moments from every time. Past, present, future, all laid out like pages in a book. I need you to help seal the city block permanently. Make it a barrier against the entities. I'm busy, said without looking up. I can see my daughter through the anchor. I can see the moment she dies. I can change it, just a few more calculations. If you do that, you open the breach wider. The entities will come through. Everything dies. I don't care. Let me save my daughter. That's all I want. Danny grabbed and pulled him away from the anchor point. Listen to me. Those entities, I've figured out what they are. Look at them closely. Really look. Looked at the things pressing through the breaches. His face went white. They're human, Danny said. Or they were. Far in the future, humanity transforms into those things. They exist outside time, feeding on causality because that's all they can do. They're trapped in eternal hunger. And if you change your daughter's death, you create the cascade of events that eventually turns humanity into them. Stared at the entities with horror. How do you know the countdown had started? Danny had 12 minutes before Greg Henderson activated the containment collapse. 12 minutes to transform a disaster into something that could save humanity's future. He worked with desperate speed while manipulated the temporal anchor point, and's collective held the structure together through sheer willpower. We need to work from 3 points at once, Danny explained as he moved through the shattered plaza. I'll repair and reinforce from the outside in. You use the anchor point to extend its influence throughout the entire city block. The collective needs to spread their consciousness across all the dimensional layers and hold them stable while we work. The entities are pushing harder, said. Her form flickered with exhaustion. Every time we close a breach, they find 2 more weak points. They know what we're trying to do. They don't want to be sealed out. Danny sealed another gap where reality bulged inward. The entities pressed against the barrier with hunger that felt almost physical. How many of you are left? About 900 now. We're losing people every few minutes, not to the entities, just to exhaustion. Our consciousness can't sustain this level of connection indefinitely. Some of us are simply fatting away. Called out from the center. I've extended the anchor point's field to cover 60% of the city block. But Danny, I'm seeing something through the temporal view. The entities aren't just pressing inward. They're doing something else, something worse. What? They're reaching backward through time, trying to change the moment of the disaster. If they succeed, they can make the city block fold in a different way, create more breaches, weaken our defenses before we even build them. Danny felt cold terror in his chest. Can they do that? I don't know. Time doesn't work the way we think when you're outside causality. To them, past and present are just different directions. They exist in our future, so they remember this moment. They know whether we succeed or fail. And right now, they're trying to make sure we fail. Amy's voice crackled through Danny's communicator. The signal was breaking up. Danny, we're seeing temporal fluctuations from outside. Reality is rewriting itself. Small changes at first. The color of the containment barrier, the position of equipment. But it's accelerating. The entities are editing the timeline. Can you stop it from out there? No, whatever's happening is originating from inside the fold. You need to lock down the temporal anchor point. Make it impossible for the entities to reach backward through it. Danny ran to the center plaza, stood in front of the anchor point, his hands moving through complex patterns in the air. Through the sphere of perfect stillness, Danny saw time itself laid out like a map. He saw the moment of the disaster, the city block beginning to fold, the quantum anchors failing. But now he saw something else. Shadows moving in the past, changing details. The entities were editing history. Close the anchor point, seal it off. I can't. If I close it now, we lose the ability to reinforce the city block's structure. The whole thing collapses. We need the anchor point to create the permanent seal. Then we need to protect it, make it so the entities can't reach through. And the collective materialized around the anchor point. Their combined form created a barrier, their consciousness overlapping in layers. We can shield it, said, but we need something to anchor our protection. A fixed point that exists in all timelines simultaneously, something the entities can't edit because it's too fundamental to change. Danny thought quickly. His mind raced through 15 years of teleportation theory. Human consciousness, the entities can change physical events, but they can't change memories and awareness. Our consciousness exists across all timelines because we experience them. That's why faction was erased completely when the entities consumed them. The things from outside don't just eat matter, they eat awareness, but they can't edit awareness that fights back. So we make our consciousness the anchor, said. We spread our awareness across every moment of the disaster and hold those moments in our memory. The entities can't change what we remember because we're actively experiencing it. The collective closed their eyes as one. Danny felt the air change around him. The 1,000 remaining people extended their minds backward through time, witnessing the disaster as it happened, remembering every detail, making those memories permanent through the force of their unified will. The entities howled. Danny heard it not with his ears, but directly in his mind. They had been editing the past quietly, hoping to change events before anyone noticed. Now they found their changes blocked by 1,000 consciousness refusing to forget what really happened. It's working, said from the anchor point. The timeline is stabilizing. The entities can't reach backward anymore, but they're furious. They're throwing everything they have at the barriers in the present. Breaches exploded open all around the city block. The entities poured through with desperate hunger. Buildings that Danny had just repaired tore apart again. Streets folded back through themselves. The park had helped stabilize dissolved into quantum foam. We can't hold them, gasped. The collective was fracturing under the pressure. There are too many breaches. We're down to 800 people. 750. They're burning through our consciousness like fuel. Danny pulled out his last resort, a tool he had hoped never to use. It was called a quantum collapse inducer. It could force a quantum state to resolve in a specific direction, but using it was dangerous. It required channeling massive amounts of energy through living tissue. His tissue. Amy, I need you to route all available power from the containment field directly to my suit. Everything you can spare without causing a total system failure. Danny, that will kill you. Your body can't handle that much energy. Do it anyway, we're out of options. Power flooded into Danny's suit. It felt like lightning in his veins. Every nerve screamed. But he focused the energy through the quantum collapse inducer and began forcing the breaches to seal. One after another, he closed the gaps where entities pushed through. He worked faster than he had ever worked before, his hands moving in patterns he barely understood, guided by instinct and desperation. Enhanced Danny's work from the anchor point, using temporal manipulation to reinforce each seal the moment it formed. And the collective, now down to 600 people, threw their combined consciousness into maintaining the structure while Danny worked. But the entities adapted. They stopped trying to force their way through existing breaches. Instead, they began creating new ones by unmaking the people of the collective. Every person the collective lost weakened the overall structure, and the entities could target specific individuals, erasing them from existence one at a time. They're picking us off, cried out. We're down to 400, 350, Danny, we're dying too fast. Hold on, almost done. Just need to seal the primary breaches and the rest will stabilize. We don't have time. The containment collapse activates in 3 minutes. Even if we survive the entities, we won't survive that. Greg Henderson's voice came through the communicator. Danny, I'm sorry. I've delayed as long as I can. The quantum instability is spreading into downtown Seattle. I have no choice. Containment collapse in 180 seconds. Danny sealed another breach, then another. His body was breaking down from the energy flowing through it. He could feel his cells starting to tear apart at the molecular level, but he kept working. 5 breaches left, 4, 3. Suddenly shouted from the anchor point. I found it. I found the solution, but you're not going to like it. Tell me. The only way to permanently seal the city block is to make it exist in all moments simultaneously. Past, present, and future all at once. It becomes a piece of space-time that has always existed and will always exist. The entities can't breach it because it's too fundamental to reality. It becomes part of the structure of the universe itself. That sounds perfect. What's the problem? The collective has to be part of the structure. They don't just guard the seal. They become the seal. Their consciousness spreads across all time, experiencing every moment forever. They'll be alive and aware but isolated from normal history. They'll exist outside the flow of time, watching but unable to interact. And the collective heard this. They looked at each other through their quantum connection. Danny could see them communicating silently, debating through their shared consciousness. They were down to 300 people now. The entities were still erasing them one by one. How long do we have to decide? Asked. 90 seconds until containment collapse. The collective went silent, then spoke for all of them. "We've voted, we accept, make us the seal, lock us into eternal guard duty. It's better than being erased, and someone needs to stand watch against those things from outside." "Are you sure?" Danny asked. "This is forever, no going back." "We're sure. We've experienced subjective centuries trapped in this fold already. What's eternity compared to that? At least this way we have a purpose. We become humanity's defense against the darkness outside reality." Moved his hands through the anchor point in complex patterns. "Everyone needs to link together one final time. Danny, you need to channel the containment field energy into the collective. Use them as a conduit to spread the temporal effect across the entire city block. It's going to hurt. All of you. This transformation is going to be agony." "We understand," said. The 300 remaining people of the collective joined hands across the plaza. Their forms began to glow with quantum energy. Danny channeled everything he had into them, the power from the containment field, the energy from his own dying body. His consciousness touched theirs and he felt what they felt. The pain of transformation, the stretching of awareness across time, the terrible weight of knowing they would experience every moment forever, unable to rest, unable to stop watching. The city block began to change. Its fractured architecture stabilized but did not normalize. Buildings remained folded through multiple dimensions but now purposefully, creating a structure that existed in all times at once. Streets connected to themselves across centuries, forming loops without beginning or end. The collective spread their consciousness throughout it all, becoming the intelligence that maintained the seal. The entities made one final push. They threw themselves at the forming structure with desperate fury. But they were too late. The seal completed. The city block locked into its permanent form. Danny staggered backward as the energy stopped flowing. His body was wrecked. Every cell was damaged, but he was alive. Fell away from the temporal anchor point. He looked decades older than when he had started, aged by what he had experienced while manipulating time. But he was smiling. "We did it. The seal is complete. The entities can't break through anymore." Danny stood at the edge of the transformed city block and tried to understand what he was looking at. The disaster had become something else entirely, a structure that existed in all moments simultaneously. Buildings folded through dimensions on purpose now, creating architecture that normal physics but held together perfectly. Streets looped through time, connecting different centuries in ways that should not work but did. The 300 people of the collective were still visible if he looked carefully. Their forms were integrated into the structure itself. A woman's face in the grain of a wall, a child's laughter echoing from a park that existed in 17 different times at once. They were not ghosts. They were the intelligence holding everything together, the consciousness that kept the seal strong. Medical teams rushed in as soon as the containment field opened. They surrounded Danny with equipment, scanning his body for damage. A doctor with kind eyes looked at the readings and shook her head. "You should be dead. Your cells are torn apart at the molecular level. How are you even standing?" "Practice," Danny said, then he collapsed. He woke up 3 days later in a hospital bed. His body was wrapped in quantum healing fields that slowly repaired his damaged tissue. Amy sat in a chair beside his bed, reading from a tablet. When she saw him open his eyes, she smiled. "Welcome back. You've been unconscious for 72 hours. The doctors weren't sure you would wake up." "He's alive, in a room down the hall. The temporal manipulation aged him about 30 years in a few minutes, but he's stable. He keeps asking about his daughter." Danny tried to sit up. Pain shot through every nerve. "His daughter dies today, 3 weeks from when the disaster happened. Did he try to change it?" "No, he stayed away from the temporal anchor point. The transformed city block sealed it off anyway. No one can access it anymore without the collective's permission. Says he understands now why changing her death would be wrong, but that doesn't make it any easier for him." Danny closed his eyes. "How many people did we lose?" "From the original 2,000, about 1,700. Faction was erased completely. The entities consumed them. Then we lost more during the battle. In the end, only 300 survived to become part of the seal." "And the families, the people who lost loved ones?" Amy was quiet for a moment. "It's complicated. Some families remember their loved ones clearly. Others have fragmentary memories. A few don't remember them at all because the entities erased those people so completely. The Teleportation Safety Bureau is trying to figure out how to explain what happened. How do you tell someone their husband was unmade from reality itself?" Danny looked out the window. He could see the transformed city block in the distance. It glowed with soft light that shifted through colors that should not exist. What's happening there now? It's become a permanent installation. The Bureau sealed off the outer layers but left some areas accessible. People can visit and communicate with the collective through quantum-linked devices. Has been talking to researchers, explaining what they experienced and what they can see from their position outside time. What can they see? Everything, past, present, and future, all laid out. But they're careful about what they reveal. They don't want to change events or give people knowledge that would harm them. Mostly they just warn about potential dangers, things pressing against reality from outside, weak points in spacetime that might attract more entities. Danny thought about and the others, trapped forever in their eternal watch. Did we do the right thing? I don't know, but I know what would have happened if we did nothing. The entities would have broken through. Reality itself would have started unraveling. You saved billions of people, Danny. Maybe the 300 who became the SEAL think that's worth it. Over the next weeks, Danny recovered slowly. His body healed, but the damage left scars. He would never work with quantum tools the same way again. The energy he had channeled through himself had changed him at a fundamental level. He could see probability fields now without instruments, touch objects and feel their quantum state. It was a strange gift born from desperate necessity. The Teleportation Safety Bureau offered him the position of Chief Quantum Architect. He would oversee reforms to teleportation safety protocols, make sure nothing like the Seattle disaster could happen again. He accepted, knowing the work would consume his life, but understanding it needed to be done. Refused all contact with Danny for the first month. Then one day he appeared at Danny's hospital room door. He looked old now, his hair gone gray, his face lined with decades he had not actually lived. But his eyes were clear. "I wanted to thank you," said quietly. "You stopped me from making the biggest mistake of my life." "I didn't stop you, you stopped yourself. Because you showed me what was at stake. The entities, the future they represented. If I had saved my daughter by changing her timeline, I would have started the cascade that eventually created those things." Sat down heavily. "She died yesterday, the transport accident, just like it was supposed to happen. I was there. I watched her take her last breath, and I did nothing to stop it because I knew the cost." "I'm sorry." "Don't be, I made my choice. I caused a disaster that killed 1,700 people. The least I can do is live with the consequences." Looked out the window at the transformed city block. "I visit them every day. The collective, I talk to them through the quantum link. Tell them what's happening in the outside world. Says they appreciate hearing about normal life, even though they can see it all from their position outside time." "What will you do now?" "I'm staying in Seattle, living near the SEAL. The Bureau offered me a position helping monitor the structure, watching for signs of stress or weakness. I can use my knowledge of temporal mechanics to support what the collective is doing. It's not redemption. Nothing can redeem what I did, but it's something." Danny understood. They were both changed by what happened, both carrying scars that would never fully heal, but they were alive and they had work to do. 3 months after the sealing, the transformed city block opened for limited public access. Families could visit the outer layers where time flowed almost normally. They could speak to their loved ones through quantum communication devices. The conversations were strange. The collective existed across all moments, so they remembered things that had not happened yet and spoke about the past as if it was still present. But they were still human, still capable of love and connection. Danny attended the first public ceremony. 2,000 families stood in the plaza that had become the heart of the SEAL. Greg Henderson gave a speech about sacrifice and duty. Amy presented research findings about the entities and the nature of the threat the collective was guarding against, and spoke on behalf of the 300, her voice transmitted through quantum channels so everyone could hear. "We are still here," said, her voice harmonized across frequencies echoing from all moments at once. "We are still human, we think and feel and remember. We are not ghosts, we are not dead. We exist in a way that is hard to explain, but we are alive, and we are standing guard. The things outside reality still press against the barriers. They still hunger to break through and consume causality itself. But they cannot pass, not while we hold this position, not while we remain vigilant. We know you did not choose this for us," she continued. "We know our families suffer knowing we are here but unable to truly interact. We carry that pain with us across all our moments. But we also carry purpose. We are humanity's first defense against threats from outside normal spacetime. We are proof that humans will sacrifice everything to protect the future. and we are content with that role. To our families, we see you every day. We watch you live your lives. We cannot speak to you often, but we are always aware of you. We love you across time in all the moments we exist forever. And we want you to know that our sacrifice was not in vain. Because of what we became, humanity has a future free from the entities. Your children will grow up safe. You will explore the stars without fear of reality unraveling. That knowledge sustains us through eternity. Danny watched families weep as they heard their loved ones speak. He saw hope and grief mixed together in their faces. This was not a happy ending, but it was an ending with meaning. The 300 had not died. They had transformed into something new, something that would stand forever between humanity and darkness. After the ceremony, Danny returned to his workshop. It was different now. The Teleportation Safety Bureau had given him a new facility with advanced equipment and a staff of quantum specialists. His job was to prevent future disasters and respond to failures before they became catastrophic. Amy joined his team as lead researcher. Together, they developed new safety protocols, quantum anchors that could not be sabotaged, fail-safe systems that would shut down teleports if they detected dimensional instability, training programs for emergency responders, everything they could do to make sure Seattle never happened again. On the one-year anniversary of the sealing, Danny stood at the edge of the transformed city block during a memorial ceremony. Thousands of people had gathered, families of the 300, survivors from the disaster, government officials and researchers, all there to remember and honor what had happened. Stood nearby, holding a photo of his daughter. She had been 23 when she died, bright and kind and full of life. Visited her grave every week and then came here to talk to the collective. He had aged another few years from grief, but he kept going, kept working, kept helping maintain the seal that his actions had made necessary. "Do you ever regret not saving her?" Danny asked quietly. Was silent for a long moment. "Every day, every hour, I see her in my dreams, alive and laughing, and I wake up knowing I had the power to change it but chose not to. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. But no, I don't regret it, because I know what would have happened if I had been selfish. The entities would exist. Billions would suffer. My daughter would want me to make that choice. She was always better than me." They stood together in silence, watching the transformed city block pulse with light. Through the quantum communication devices, they could hear the collective. 300 voices harmonized across time, speaking to visitors, answering questions, sharing glimpses of what they could see from their eternal position. A little girl approached the nearest communication station. She was maybe 8 years old, holding her mother's hand. "Hello," she said shyly into the device. "Is my daddy there? His name is, he was a teacher." Danny felt his heart break, had been part of the faction that tried to join the entities. He had been erased so completely that most people could not remember him. But this girl remembered. She carried memories that somehow survived the erasure. His voice came through the device, gentle and sad. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. Your daddy is not with us anymore, but we remember him. We hold his memory across all our moments. He was brave and curious even when he made mistakes, and he loved you very much." The girl started crying. Her mother pulled her close and led her away from the station. Danny watched them go and felt the weight of everything that had happened. 1,700 people lost, 300 transformed, countless families shattered by grief. But humanity survived. The entities were sealed away. The future was safe. Greg Henderson approached Danny with purpose in his stride. "We've been monitoring quantum fluctuations across all active teleport hubs. Your new safety protocols are working. Failure rates are down 60%. And when failures do happen, we're catching them before they cascade into disasters." "That's good news." "There's more. The collective has identified 3 other weak points in space-time, places where entities might try to break through. We're setting up monitoring stations at each location. If we detect breach attempts, your team responds. The collective guides us. Together we keep reality intact." Danny nodded. This was his life now, not just cleaning up failed teleports, but defending the very structure of space-time against threats from outside. It was bigger than he had ever imagined his job would become, but someone had to do it. He looked up at the transformed city block one final time, and the 300 were in there, experiencing every moment of past and future simultaneously, standing eternal watch. They had given up normal life, given up the flow of time, given up everything so humanity could have a future. "We're still here," their voices echoed from the structure. "We're still human, and we're holding the line." Danny gathered his equipment and headed back to the workshop. His communicator was already ringing with a new emergency call. Another teleport failure, smaller this time, but still dangerous. He would go and fix it because this was what he did. This was who he was. He cleaned up failed teleports, and now he did it knowing that some failures could be transformed into humanity's greatest victories. That sacrifice, even terrible sacrifice, could have meaning. That 300 people trapped outside time were proof humanity would always choose to protect the future, no matter the cost. The city block stood behind him as he left, glowing softly in the fading light. A memorial, a fortress, a promise that humanity would never stop fighting, never stop standing guard against the darkness, never give up no matter how impossible the situation seemed. Because that was what humans did. They faced the impossible and found a way through. They sacrificed when necessary. They transformed disasters into defenses. They held the line. And they would keep holding it, forever if that's what it took. The end. The containment collapse warning stopped. Greg Henderson's voice came through the communicator, filled with confusion. Danny, what just happened? The quantum readings just stabilized. The instability stopped spreading. It's like the city block became a permanent installation instead of a disaster. It did, Danny said. His voice was weak. We transformed it. It's a seal now, a barrier against things from outside reality, and it's going to stand forever. He looked at the transformed city block, and the 300 others were still visible, their forms integrated into the structure itself. They looked peaceful, content. Their consciousness was spread too thin across time for individual communication, but Danny could feel them. They were still there, still human, still standing guard. Because I can see it in their structure. My tools can read quantum signatures. Those things have human DNA scattered across probability fields. They're what we become if we gain too much power over time without the wisdom to use it properly. Your daughter's death is tragic, but changing it starts the chain of research that leads to this. His hands shook. He looked at the temporal anchor point, then at the entities, then back at Danny. I can save her. I can see exactly how to do it. I know, but you won't, because you're better than that, because you understand what's really at stake now. For a long moment, stood frozen. Then he stepped away from the anchor point and turned to help Danny seal the breaches. Together, with collective providing the framework, they began transforming the shattered city block into something new. Not a rescue, not a repair, but a permanent defense against the darkness outside reality. There's one thing you didn't account for, Danny said. Told me the victims are connected. They can feel each other's thoughts. They've been trapped in here for hours, experiencing subjective years while we've been talking. They know what's happening, and they're not going to let you use them as tools. The plaza suddenly filled with people. Appeared first, her form shifting between her multiple temporal states, but now with control instead of panic. Behind her, 2,000 others materialized through the folded space. They had been there all along, listening through their quantum connection. We know what you did to us, said. Her voice came from all 2,000 of them at once. We know why, and we know what's pressing against reality from outside, drawn to the wound you created. We can feel those things because we're partly outside reality now, too. Stood up quickly, his quantum control returned and his body began flickering again. You don't understand what's at stake. We understand perfectly, and the collective stepped forward as one. And we have an offer for you. 7 different gravitational fields pulled his body in different directions. Time slowed down and sped up at random intervals. He took one step that lasted 3 seconds outside, but felt like 30 minutes inside his own head. The world around him existed in fragments, moments stacked on top of each other like shuffled cards. He was inside now, and there was no turning back.